Hello and welcome to proteins. If you're like me, you've heard about proteins for a very, very long time. Protein shakes, the kinds of things that help you get strong. I need steak, protein, build my muscles, that sort of thing. This is why nobody should ever be a vegan or a vegetarian. No offense, but okay, there are other ways to get proteins, I guess, but we need proteins. Proteins are, in fact, perhaps the most abundant organic molecules in living systems. There are lots of them. I think like 15% of a bacteria, like 70% of a bacteria is water, but then like 15% of a bacteria is protein. Protein is very important for the cell membrane, for all kinds of things. So proteins are made up of amino acids. So if you take an amino acid and you put it together, in various ways, you get a protein. Now, let's hold off on a second. This is basically an amino acid. So what is an amino acid, you ask? I've always wondered. So an amino acid basically has kind of the heart of it, which is a carbon with stuff, side chains. There are like 20 different common amino acids. So whatever the R is the special aspect of the amino acid. But at the heart of the amino acid is carbon, because we are carbon-based units, right? So at the center of the amino acid is a carbon. So you have these two sides of on the carbon. So on this side, you've got the amino bit, the NH2. I don't remember what my stupid cliche was to remember an amino functional group, but basically, I don't know, mean old nitrogen, something like that, something stupid. It doesn't work, right? Because I didn't remember it myself. But NH2 is the amino part of the amino acid. And then on the other side, you've got the choo-choo, the box train, car box. The choo, except it's COOH, right? The carboxyl group. So you've got a carboxyl group on the one side. It's probably reversed in the way you're seeing this recording. Is it that way? Yeah. So that's the carboxyl group, and that's the amino group. And then in the middle, you've got the nucleus. That's not a nucleus, it's a carbon. So you got this stuff in the middle, amino acid. Okay. So that's the amino acid is the heart of the protein stuff. Okay. So there are like 20 common amino acids, and they have fun names. Some of them are polar, some of them are non-polar. The polar ones, like water, those are the ones that tend to have a little bit of charge. And so those are the hydrophilic ones. They like water, the polar ones. Polar bears like water, think of that. And then the non-polar amino acids are hydrophobic. They're afraid of water. So anyway, some amino acids are acidic. Some of them are more basic. And so depending on what the R is, that's the part that makes it kind of get some of its unique properties. But every amino acid has an amino on one end, NH2, and a carboxyl on another side, CHOO, or actually COOH. Okay. 9 of these amino acids are not manufactured by our body. So if I can do math, there are at least 11 of these common amino acids that our body can handle. But there are 9 of them that we have to get from the outside world, which is why we need to eat. Okay, so if you haven't eaten in a few days, stop watching this video, go somewhere and get some food before you die. Okay, so what are the functions of proteins? What do these proteins do? Well, some of them are structural. So we're going to find out, although those of you who have been following these videos have already found out, that there are integral proteins, that kind of hold the cell membrane together. So proteins can be structural. They can help hold things in place. They can be regulatory. So that means they can, you here, you there. So like hormones are a kind of protein. Proteins can basically say, get tall, you know, or have smelly armpits. No, but anyway, they're lymph nodes under the armpit. I don't know that they have anything to do with smell. But so the proteins can be regulatory and say, now you, grow, don't grow, and so forth, hormones. So they can hold stuff together, they can regulate stuff. Contractile, they can help things move. So if you're watching this video and you're my daughter, then you've already had some lectures on myosin, which is a motor protein that helps your muscles. See, there are all kinds of myosin contractile things going on, proteins, myosin. What were the other ones that you looked at? Diacin? Dyson? There was one like that, and there was another one that was a motor protein in general, not just in muscles. Okay, it's dynein and kinesin. Yeah, those are the two I was trying to think of. And the di ones are motors that move toward the minus side of the microtubule, and the kinesin are the motor proteins that go to the plus side of the microtubule. Anyway, that's later on, except it's not because I'm doing these out of order. But anyway, contractiles help move motion. So structural, like integral proteins, hold the cell membrane in place. Regulatory, you know, you do this, slow down over there. Regulatory proteins like hormones. Contractile, like motor proteins that help in motion. And then protective proteins fight off stuff, you know, how about you? Okay, so these are the four functions that proteins have basically in organisms. Okay, so two important kinds of regulatory proteins, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, this comes later too, are enzymes. Enzymes catalyze reaction. A catalyst is something that makes stuff happen that would have been harder to happen. So, like, do you have friends who make you laugh? It's not that you can't laugh without them around, but when you're around them, you laugh more. They catalyze laughter. So an enzyme catalyzes various things. It catalyzes things to break down, for example, like digesting food. Or they can actually, those are called catabolic. You don't need to know that, so just I'm going to stop talking. And then there are some that build things up, but enzymes are a particular kind of protein. More to come. A hormone is, again, one of those regulatory. You do this, you slow down, or you grow. You know, you're going too fast, Flash. You have too high a metabolism. So these are two important types of proteins, regulatory proteins. Okay, amino acids. What have we talked about with amino acids? So again, I've already said this. An amino acid has an amino on one side, and then H2, and a carboxyl on the other, COOH. Choo, boxcar on a train, choo. Anyway, carboxyl on one side, an amino, you mean old nitrogen, on the other side. Different stuff in the middle, as I've said. Now, the side chain, okay, I've already said this. This side chain determines, this R, determines whether it's an acid or a base or polar or non-polar bear, and so forth. Things I've already said, and I'm already reviewing them. Okay, so now, let's move on from amino acids to build them up. So this is an amino acid. This is an amino acid. It's got a NH2, an amino on one side, and a COOH, or carboxyl, on the other side. Same here. What if these two fell in love? A hydrogen falls in love with a hydroxide, and they give off a water. So two amino acids hook up, and they form a peptide. And so what happens is these two go off as water, dehydration, you know, goodbye. And we're left with basically the C connects to the N. And there's a story of a peptide bond. Anyway, okay, here's a story of an amino acid who is bringing up some aminos and a carboxyl. Stop. Okay, never mind. So they hook up, the C and the N hook up, ding, and we've got a peptide. Okay, which remember, in early stages of Alzheimer's, the brain sends a lot of peptides to work, maybe a sign of infection. Anyway, never mind. Okay, so now when this can happen over and over because this peptide can join up with another amino acid, and this hydrogen and that hydroxide can go off as water in a loop, and we've got 3 amino acids next to each other. So what we end up is a polypeptide. We have multiple peptides. Poly means many. Polytheism believes in many gods. Polypeptide believes in many peptides. And then a protein is basically a bunch of polypeptides that have hooked up. All right, there you have it. So let's summarize what we've said in this video. You start with the amino acid. It's an itty bitty little amino acid that joins together with other amino acids to form peptides. And then the peptides join together to form polypeptides. And the polypeptides are really proteins, but we can say polypeptides join together to form proteins like enzymes and hormones. Okay, well, I probably shouldn't show you this video. In fact, if you've had enough, go screaming from the room. However, insulin is important to me because my father had diabetes, and I think I have an 85% chance of getting diabetes. And so here is insulin. Diabetes is when your pancreas just stops making insulin. And so this is what insulin, the molecule, it's a very big molecule, macro molecule, right? It's this is insulin. And so you can see each one of these little circles is an amino acid, glycine. I can't tell you what they all are because I'm useless. But basically, amino acid, amino acid, amino acid, amino acid, amino acid, amino acid. It's a hormone, which is a kind of protein, which is a polypeptide. So you've got 2 chains on this particular huge molecule. You've got chain A, the A chain and the B chain, and they're connected to each other. Notice that everywhere you see a cissy molecule, it's the cysteine chapel. So everywhere you see a cysteine amino acid, you have a sulfhydryl kind of group, which is remember 2 sulfurs and it's disulfide. I'm sorry, but it is anyway. Never mind. So you can see that everywhere there's a cysteine, you've got these sulfhydryl groups that are connecting across, and so that's what holds this A chain and B chain together. This is called the N side. It's the amino side, the nitrogen side, and then this is called the C side for the carboxyl group. Anyway, so it's interesting. It's a bunch. So it's a polypeptide because you've got all these two amino acids would be a peptide. So we got lots of peptides. So it's a polypeptide, and it's very complex. But this is what helps us basically not get too much sugar in our system. So that we're not like that. And again, insulin can be synthesized in the laboratory. I believe it's very expensive, which is a completely different problem. I'll stop there. So this is the thing to take away. You have amino acids, the nitrogen or amino on one side, NH2, and a carboxyl on the other, COOH. Amino acids join together to form a peptide. Peptides join together to form polypeptide, and that's basically a protein, and like enzymes and hormones. This has been video number 1 on proteins.